Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I am your co-host Gordon Gamble, joined by this beauty of a man here, Keyroad, and it's UFC time once again. After that 4 weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, that was 1 week too many added in the end of January there. I'm excited for fights to be back. That made no sense.
No.
You know what? I'm just baffled because the second we sit down here to record this video, Sam Alvey versus Phil Hayes is out. And I was going to be that idiot going on there saying that, oh my god, Sam Alvey 2022. Maybe it's time. But no. It's probably a good thing for my bank account that fight got canceled because who's one to trust Sam Alvey, especially in this day and age. But I mean, there's still a lot of great fights going on, 12-fight card. Hopefully no more fights get canceled after we're recording this. But how are we doing, my friend?
Pretty good. I mean, yeah, a week off of UFC in order to watch NFL.
To watch Joe Burr.
But yeah, another week back at it. Another Vegas fight card here. Yeah, exciting to be back.
You know what? It's one that's lacking a bit of name value, but oh my god, we are having some really exciting matchups. A lot to get through, so I say we don't waste any time. Let's get right into it. UFC Vegas 47 UFC breakdown starts now. Explosion. I can't edit that well.
You could put a picture of an explosion right here.
Boom. All right, let's get this party started. Main event, Strickland Hermansson, a very, very fun one to watch, and I'm excited to see it happen. What are we playing in terms of DraftKings this week? How do we see this one flowing down?
Yeah, definitely a really interesting fight. Obviously, two guys with not the biggest name value in all of the UFC, but should be a good fight here this week. Obviously, you have the big favorite here in Sean Strickland up at $8,800, and then Hermansson down there all the way at $7,400. So pretty big price discrepancy in this main event. Not expected by DraftKings to be particularly close. A lot of people think this is going to be a straightforward fight. I mean, you got Hermansson, better on the ground. Strickland, I mean, more like Strickland.
Okay.
Strickland, better on the feet. But we can't disrespect Hermansson's ability to be competitive in more of a striking affair. Strickland definitely has better hands, but that big of a price difference is not very reflective of the difference in skill level here in terms of that striking ability. We expect it to stay mostly on the feet because Strickland has not been taken down very much recently, but $8,800 to $7,400 is a bit bigger of a discrepancy than probably we would foresee for a fight like this. So who do we think is going to win? Probably Sean Strickland. But in your DraftKings lineups, we're probably going to have more ownership on Hermansson here at $7,400. He definitely has the ability to win this fight. And at that low of a price tag, we think that's great value.
This is a fight where I think Hermansson's getting a bit disrespected. Obviously, if it goes to the ground, Hermansson's going to have that advantage, but I think the skill discrepancy on the ground is a lot larger than it is on the feet. Hermansson can keep his own. It's not like he's a bad striker. So this is one where, yes, Strickland's going to have that striking advantage on the feet, but I don't think he should be $8,800 here. So it's a tough one, a bit of ownership towards Hermansson, but I am going to be taking Strickland to win the fight. All right, let's move it on. I got to talk about this one before we move on to core plays. The Vanilla Gorilla versus Phil Rowe. Jason Witt here is one of my favorite fighters to watch because, man, he's got a decent skill set, but this guy has no chin. He is a very, very chinny fighter, and he's going out here against Phil Rowe, a guy who has a 10.5-inch reach advantage. Now, we look at this fight. You have the rangy striker in Phil Rowe, who also has a decent grappling game, but a guy who really starts his fight slow and progressively gets better as the fight goes on, versus a guy in Jason Witt who has no chin, not very good cardio, but he has a very good wrestling heavy game. He's had some dominant wins on the ground. It's a spot where if he's able to execute his game plan, his ceiling is a lot higher than people expect. The problem is, he could very easily get knocked out in the first 10 seconds, like he did against Matt Jesus Semmelsberger. This is one where I see this fight finishing. I'm gonna have a lot of ownership in this fight just because it's either Jason Witt by early domination or Phil Rowe as the fight goes on, or with that range, or just hitting that chin of Jason Witt, who we all know is very easily touched. Okay, cut. Or Phil Rowe with that rangy striking, taking over later as the fight goes on, or even just touching that chin of Jason Witt. All right, let's move right along. Let's talk about another chinny fighter in a matchup here. A core play of ours is going to be Mr. Dennis Bondar. Tell us a bit more about him.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has a high salary this week, $9,100 coming into this fight as his first in the UFC. Dennis Bondar is 16-3 professionally with an 100% finish rate. And if there's one thing we know about Malcolm Gordon, it's that he likes to get knocked out.
I don't know if he likes it.
So knowing that going into this fight, although Bondar hasn't fought in the UFC yet and his level of competition has been very low historically, obviously, he is coming in here to one of the lower level fighters in the UFC who has been finished a lot recently. And with the power that he has, we expect Malcolm Gordon to probably get finished here. So although he is at $9,100, we really like this play because if Bondar goes out there, gets that early KO, which seems quite likely given this matchup, stylistically, he could score really huge here on DraftKings this week.
One thing I will mention is, like we said, Dennis Bondar 15-3. The way he loses his fights is that back take, maybe a little bit of sloppy grappling, and if he doesn't get knocked out, Malcolm Gordon does have some decent ground game chops. People have very much respect in this field. Liam Pick's fights are on Gordon a bit here. I see it. I see the opportunity. Maybe a punt play, but I do think Dennis Bondar gets the finish here. It's just tough to trust someone like Gordon with very questionable chin. All right, moving right along. Let's talk about a cash option. And my favorite cash play of the day is Alexis Davis. Now, cash play only because her ceiling isn't that high, but I think she's one of the safest plays on the card. She's facing someone here in Stoliarenko, someone who has improved recently, but is not UFC caliber fighter in my opinion. Alexis Davis is someone who has given vet lessons in the past. I think it's another vet lesson right here. On the feet, Stoliarenko is very, very uncomfortable. She is a submission grappler and very good at that. The problem is her wrestling isn't good, her striking isn't good. Alexis Davis, someone who has fought some really, really good competition, has a 34% takedown defense. If Stoliarenko can't get her down, it is Alexis's world in the feet, and I think she should roll here as a cash play of mine this week. All right, moving right along to another core play of mine, and like we said, if we're taking Jack Hermansson in the main event, we're gonna have some room for some salary. Let's talk about the most expensive fighter on the slate, Jailton Almeida. I am loving him this week. Tell us a bit more about him.
Yeah, I mean, another guy making his UFC debut here against an opponent who he's favored very heavily over. Down there, Marquez sitting at $6,800, extremely low salary here. Not great cardio, doesn't like to get hit. The one thing he's got going for him, much like Malcolm Gordon, is that on the ground, he can be pretty good, pretty decent. However, his opponent this week, Almeida, we saw him fight on the Contender Series. He was quite impressive there, and coming at $9,400, he is a lot better of a fighter on the feet. And then on the ground, he's not too bad himself either, which means that the one thing that Marquez could possibly get here would be some sort of sub on the ground. But we don't see that as being very likely here, given Almeida's ability on the feet and on the ground. So if this stays on the feet, we think it's Almeida all day. $9,400, obviously a huge salary, but with this big of a discrepancy in terms of skill of competition, we think that Almeida has it all day here.
This is one where Marquez does not like to be hit, has very questionable cardio. I think his only win condition lies in that grappling, which I don't see him getting that sub over Almeida. I think Almeida is a decently safe option, and I think he scores very well this weekend. All right, let's look up a bit more. Another core play of mine is going to be Punahele Soriano at a price tag of 8.6K, facing Nick Maximoff in that co-main event slot. Now, Punahele Soriano is going out there, just lost his last fight, his first loss of his pro career, and now he's facing a Diaz brother prodigy in Nick Maximoff. Punahele Soriano is a huge dude, lots of power, and a very, very credentialed wrestling and judo background. He's facing someone in Maximoff who has a very wrestling style heavy approach, but the problem is Maximoff's not a striker. Very questionable striking defense, very questionable striking abilities. This is one where Maximoff is going to need to get those takedowns in order to have any success, and I think that Soriano's takedown defense and ability to have his own wrestling game himself is going to win him this fight here. On the feet, Soriano all day, and if he's able to keep it there, I think he scores very high. The only problem I have with this play is the cardio of Soriano is a bit unknown, especially if that wrestling gets extended. However, I think it's very likely for him to go out there and get a first round knockout if he's able to stop those takedowns and keep it on the feet with Maximoff, because the striking is his world. All right, let's get one more underdog in there for you guys. $7,300, the sexy Mexi John Castaneda. Tell us a bit more about him.
I mean, right off the bat, hard to argue with that nickname. So right there, that's halfway to a win. But yeah, this is an interesting one this week because Sexy Mexi Castaneda is down here at $7,300, but we don't necessarily see him as that big of an underdog in this fight. I mean, Johns is quite good on the ground, but it's been a few fights since he's even shot for a takedown, really. He's stayed on the feet and been willing to have those exchanges on the feet with people in a lot of his recent fights. And on the feet, Castaneda, we think definitely has that advantage in cardio, which means that as the fight goes on, he could be winning a lot of these exchanges on the feet. He's also extremely durable, only one KO loss in his whole professional career. So he's not a guy that we think is gonna get finished on the feet. And with better cardio, if this goes longer in the fight, we think he could have the advantage here. So At $8,900, we definitely don't think Johns is one of the favorites you should be taking this week. He definitely doesn't have the same upside given Castaneda's durability. And then on the flip side of that, Castaneda at $7,300, you could put up a decent score here. So at $7,300, we think this is huge value. We don't necessarily think he's 100% going to win this fight, but at $7,300, he's one of the underdogs this week that we really, really like.
I mean, I don't see him getting finished here by Johns. He's very durable and has a very good ground game in his own right. So if he's not getting finished, his floor is a lot higher than a lot of other people at this salary. So it's one of these guys who I think has a lot better chance than his price does entail. All right, that looks like it'll do it. A few more things to point out. You have the power bar, Marc-Andre Barriault, a guy who puts out a ton of volume, who is also very durable. I think he puts out enough volume to score decently well. I'm going to take him to win over Nojikani, but Nojikani is no joke.
No Jokani.
Barriault's a guy who struggles against takedowns. Nojikani's not going to give him those takedowns, so he has a very good chance to score well at $8,200. The Gore battle fight is a very, very interesting one for me. I'll give Gore the striking power abilities and the ability to finish the fight. But Battle's got a decent ground game as well if he wants to go there. We know Gore's showed decent takedown defense. This is a fight where I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm not going to be playing as much of it, but I think that Battle as an underdog has a decent shot as well. Also, another favorite if you guys want, I think Arosa has a good chance to score very well. The problem is, he's probably not going to get the finish here, and he's not very trustworthy, so at that same price tag, I'd rather get Bondar, I'd rather get Almeida, I'd rather even get someone safer in Alexis Davis. Finally, the last fight of the night that I want to talk about, the people's main event, Rakhmonov, Harris. This one's going to be an absolute barn burner. I'm staying away. I'm enjoying. I think Rakhmonov's a more technical fighter, but the pace that Harris fights at and his abilities on both the ground and the feet with those power hooks. Not like Rakhmonov has been hurt. He's undefeated, but he's been hurt. So this is one where I think Harris's style may cause some problems, but I don't trust him enough to get the win over such a technical guy in Rakhmonov that I am staying away from it. But I see a point for having each one of them in your lineups. All right, that's going to do it for us on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys for checking it out. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, @GamblesGordo, @PlaysFades. It is a super, super interesting card, and I'm hyped for it. Next week, up UFC 271, Adesanya versus Whitaker. I'm absolutely pumped for that. That's going to be a great one. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a like in the video, and let's make some money. Ding!